Ladies and gentlemen, this will probably be one of the most weirdest graphics card launch reviews you'll see at Tech Yes City, and it's a day late because this card right here, this is the 4070 Ti Super Ventus from MSI, the X3 model. Now, this is, from what I gather, it's a typical like entry-level MSRP card. There's no overclocking involved. And the thing is, though, this card has had now, officially from today, the third VBIOS that's been released for it. So I got the card in exactly on review day, so there was absolutely no time I could get a day one review done for you guys. Just wasn't enough time to record the video, get the benchmarks, and validate all the results. And so what I ended up doing was I decided, well, the day I got it, there was a second VBIOS ready to go. And I was like, well, I'll just document the changes before and after and just get some video of it. And then by the time I had done that, there's another VBIOS that's ready to go. And basically what was happening here was the performance was lackluster, to say the least, especially when you look at the 4070 Super and how well that was doing. We've now got a card here that's just really not giving the performance that you would expect from a $799 card that's replacing the 4070 Ti. And in fact, the 4070 Ti is looking really good when you look at these benchmarks and you're like, well, that held up pretty well. Except with the 4070 Ti Super, you just get extra VRAM now and a bigger bit bus. So in today's video, we are going to take a look at the first VBIOS versus the second versus the third, and then we'll talk about the results here and what went wrong with the 4070 Ti Super from MSI right after the sponsor. And also, excuse the hermit here, I'm in benchmark mode as well. Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in the description below. So getting into the first title here, we're going to pull up Cyberpunk 2077, and what we got here is a result that really, you look at the 4080 and you're like, damn, if I was going to get a 4070 Ti Super, I kind of wanted to get that feeling of a card that was closer to a 4080 than it was to a 4070 Ti. But what you're seeing here is from these results, you're seeing it's coming closer to the 4070 Ti. And now another thing is too, when we look at these three VBIOS updates, they are doing absolutely nothing to change the performance of this card at 1440p and 4K. And I mean, this card, apparently this VBIOS update was meant to give you more performance, but it's, from what I'm testing here, it's doing absolutely nothing. I mean, I've installed it as administrator, I've reinstalled the drivers, I've reset the PC, turned it off, you name it, I've done it, and I just can't extract any more performance out of it. So I think it's not a VBIOS problem at this point in time. Now, I'm going to get onto the next game soon, but the results, unfortunately, when we look at these side-by-side comparisons here, the results are pretty much all the same across these three VBIOS updates. So what we're looking at here is a card that I don't know if I can, and the reason for this video is not called a review in its sense, is because I'm not confident that this card is performing like the other cards that are out there, and also I'm just not confident that these are the results you should expect from a 4070 Ti Super, because it's the only card that came in at Tech Yes City, and the cards don't go on sale for another day, possibly 2 days in Australia, because we're a little bit delayed when it comes to new graphics card launches. Anyhow, looking at Starfield, the next title here, we've got on low settings, you are getting a massive 10 FPS over the 4070 Super, and pretty much nothing over the 4070 Ti. When you look at the 4070 Super, you're like, well, damn, I would have expected more performance for that extra 33% more money. And that's not coming through at 1440p, neither is it coming through at 4K. And then if we look at the VBIOS updates, they are doing absolutely nothing. 2 and 3 are just pretty much following the lead of 1, and nothing is happening in this game in terms of getting more performance for updating this card. Though, moving on now to Apex Legends, here is where we saw actually surprisingly a VBIOS update number 2 had a slight regression in performance, and then VBIOS update number 3 that had an uplift in performance very slightly. and this showed at 4K with 1 extra FPS. But again, it was all within tolerable variance, since these are going into the 250 region of FPS. Having a couple of FPS here and there is not what you're looking for. You're looking for that big 10% uptick if there was a performance issue with this card, and you're just not seeing it, and you're not seeing anything being alleviated by these VBIOS updates. But looking at the graphs here, you can see the performance numbers aren't that great either, especially looking at the 4070 Super. At its cheaper price point, you're just not getting your value with the 4070 Ti Super. And this was kind of the card that I think a lot of people were expecting to give that more performance. But again, I can't now say that with certainty, because this card could be a bit of a dud. I just don't know at this point in time. So I think that is where I mean, we'll talk about this soon. Let's get the last title done and dusted, and that is Alan Wake 2, where the VBIOS updates made no difference. The numbers, again, are looking very similar, like they're closer to the 4070 Ti and then the 4070 Super than they are to anywhere near the league of a 4080. So that was what surprised me coming out of these numbers. So we just tested 4 games here today at 1440p and 4K, because I think if you're going for a 4070 Ti Super, you're not playing at 1080p. I think this card is a waste of money for 1080p. I think it's more geared up towards higher resolution gaming, higher frame rates at those higher resolutions. And so I can't give you guys an answer with this card, because it's the most confusing thing that's happened at Tech Yes City in recent launches for GPUs especially. And it's just so confusing, because I got the model that is having problems. And so there were those numbers out of the way. I can tell you guys in a preliminary sense, I would not be going for this particular model of 4070 Ti Super at this time. I don't know if this is indicative of all 4070 Ti Supers. I am told by NVIDIA it's actually not. You should be getting more performance. And also when I check out other reviewers out there, they're getting higher numbers than I am, say with an Asus TUF model or another model from another vendor. So at this point in time, I'm just going to hold back until I can get more validation on my numbers versus other models out there, and then we can roll with an official review. But for what it's worth, the numbers that I'm seeing here with this card, I wouldn't be excited at all. In fact, I would rush out, especially if you're in Australia and you're looking to get one of these higher end cards. I'd be rushing out to get the 4080 on the clear out sale, because it's going to be a similar price to 4070 Ti Super. So if you're looking for that higher end model, go quickly, just get your 4080 and be done with it. Because another thing that I'm looking at the spec sheet here is that the level 2 cache, and something that I saw in the 4070 Super review when I did that and I looked back on that, is that had a 33% increase in its level 2 cache size. And now in games, that made a huge difference, where we were getting numbers that were bigger than that CUDA core increase of 20-ish%. And in some games it was massive. It was even bigger than that 20% difference. And so you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, there's some other magic source at play here. And that magic source was indeed, I believe, the level 2 cache size. And here's where on the 4070 Ti Super versus the 4080, you actually don't get the same size. You got the 48 megabytes, just like the 4070 Ti and now the 4070 Super, as opposed to the 4080, which has 64 megabytes of level 2 cache. And I do believe that is a pretty significant factor in determining some of these higher frame rates that you're seeing on the 4080 versus the 4070 Ti Super. But again, I won't know that for certain until I get another model in that's running, at least from what I can tell, 100%, and it's running properly. Because in some of these benchmark numbers, I do notice that the percentage of GPU utilization, especially in Apex Legends, for example, it's hovering around 92, 93%. Now I've got resizable bar turned on. I even tried turning it off. I've tried, my system is running really sweet. The i9-13900K, the 7600 megahertz memory, everything's running really sweet on the system. So there's just no reason for this card to be giving, I guess, anything under, say, 98%. So I think there is a valid concern here for performance degradation on this model versus other models, and these VBIOS updates are just not helping this card. And so if you're releasing 2 VBIOS updates already and that's not fixing any of the problems, you're still getting virtually all the same results, then it leads me to believe that it's actually a manufacturing design flaw. Perhaps there's something wrong with the hardware, maybe the cooler, maybe something is not pressuring something on the card 100%. And so even some of these slight, because the hardware is so small nowadays, you got that 4 nanometer tech going into it, because the hardware is so small, it's so sensitive to very small slight variations in pressure and things like that. There could be some sort of slight mounting pressure issue. I don't know, again, but I just thought I'd make you guys a video because I'm getting some messages behind the scenes. Where's your 4070 Ti Super coverage? And when's it coming? And so I do want to give you guys a video and let you know that I do have the card. I have tested it out and it's not the performance I expect. And the fact is, there's been 2 VBIOS updates already, and so they aren't making a difference. And so if people on forums and places are like, well, you got to update to the second VBIOS, you got to update to the first one from the second one. So the RTX 4070 Ti Super, at this point in time, I'm just going to be waiting a few more days. I'm going to sort things out around here, and I've actually got quite a few more products to review, both from AMD and from NVIDIA as well. So at this point in time with the 4070 Ti Super, I would hold off on this particular model, especially the Ventus 3X from MSI, because the numbers just don't look like something that you would expect from this caliber of card at this price point. Now, I will be trying to get in another card as soon as possible, or if there's a 4th VBIOS update that fixes everything magically, then you will see a full-fledged review here on the channel. It's just at this point in time, I wouldn't be buying this card. I'd hold off on buying this particular model as I just think there's something off with it. Now, after 2 VBIOS updates already, I do believe there's a possibility it could be a hardware design flaw, something that made it to production that wasn't in the initial design. But I thought I'd make today's video just to say, hey, I'm still alive. I haven't gone anywhere. There's just actually a lot of new products coming out this month, and there's a reason for that. Perhaps we'll talk on a live stream about why exactly that is. But also, impressions so far with the 4070 Ti Super is it's nowhere near as impressive as the 4070 Super was. So I was like, that's a pretty good card, especially at the $599 MSRP. But this card here at the $799 MSRP, I think 4070 Ti owners will be like, well, I bought that quite a while ago and it's virtually the same thing, minus 4 gigabytes of VRAM. They're going to be quite happy at this point in time. 7900 XT owners as well. They're going to be like, well, hey, I got this card and this super refresh was meant to give us so much more, and it's looking like it hasn't. So I won't be able to say that though until I've validated this with other cards, or at least one other card, and testing it on the benchmarks and running through those numbers through for you guys. Though, as it stands, this MSI Ventus model, it's lackluster. I believe there's something wrong with it. And it does happen though. Things like this do happen in the industry. However, once I figured this out, I will give you guys proper day 7 coverage instead of day 1 coverage. I think it'll be rolled back to day 7 or something like that. But I'm not going to be stressing out about this. And I think if you're in a rush to get one of these cards, don't be, because you could make a mistake. And so that's what it's all about. It's just being a little bit patient, holding back, letting all the dust settle, seeing what's the problem, and then make a good informed purchase decision for yourself, especially at this price point. $800 is a lot of money, and you do want to make sure you're getting the most for your money, especially when it comes to a GPU. Anyway, final words is that if this is indeed the final numbers for the 4070 Ti Super, and it's not just the Ventus, then it is looking very lackluster. But if there is something wrong with the Ventus, then I hope that, I don't know how that would work. How would a GPU recall work? So either way, I'm not going to be pulling my hair out over this one. I'm not going to be inducing any headaches, except for just say, guys, be patient. Don't go out and rush out and buy a product until you see reviews on that particular model and you know that people can vouch for it. I can't particularly vouch for this card at this point in time, other than to say that it's not running 100%. So there is definitively, of the definition of definite, going to be a lot more new tech videos coming out in the next few days and weeks. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. If you have any questions or comments about the 4070 Ti Super launch, do let us know in the comments section below. Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always. But one thing is looking like already, as I checked the 4070 Super pricing, And that's coming in with kind of the weird scenario that we sort of predicted was MSRPs of $599 in the US. So in the US, the 4070 Super is looking really good. In Australia, the prices are coming in right around what you can get a 4070 Ti for. So there's that option there. So like we said before, the 4080 run out sale, might want to just look at what's on sale in your country and just get the best price on the best GPU. Always look at that. Anyhow, see you next time. Peace out for now. Bye.